So in this video I'm going to show you how to make a rain shelter, protect tender plants, or plants sensitive to rain, moisture and frost and ice in winter. Here's a finished shelter I've done on this Trachycarpus princeps palm. These are the things you're going to need. You're going to need wooden stakes of various lengths depending on the height of the plant. You're going to need something to hit those stakes into the ground. So I've got a big heavy mallet here. And for the top you're going to need, ideally, some clear plastic, or in this case polycarbonate, because it's really strong and it's relatively flexible as well. You're going to need some screws and either some washers or some sort of plastic tops like these which will go around the screws, and you're going to need a drill as well. So the good thing about the polycarbonate is you can cut it to size pretty easily, either with scissors, but it is still strong as well and flexible in the wind. So let's make some shelters. So here I've banged 4 stakes around this Breyer edgeless palm, which is pretty tender up here. Have to be careful not to get too close to the base of the plant because you don't want to damage any of the roots. And also I made the stakes on one side slightly lower than the other side, because when I put the top on I want it to be slightly sloped so it's against the direction of the wind, so it would help protect it and stop the rain blowing down on it. So I've just rested the plastic on top, and now I'm going to use a pair of scissors to cut across the polycarbonate to the required size. So now I'm going to simply drill, I'll screw through polycarbonate into the centre of the top of the stake, which is here, and I'm going to put this cap on and drill through like that, sorry, and that will keep it nice and secure at each of the 4 posts. And there you have the finished fitting. Just a little cap, plastic cap that goes over the top. Equally, you could just use metal washers around the screw to protect the polycarbonate so it doesn't rip off. And it's very strong stuff, so this here, it doesn't need a frame around the edges of wood or anything. That'll survive really strong winds. I've had ones in my garden like this in storms with 50, 60, 70 mile an hour blast of wind. The most important thing of these is securely in the ground so that they're hitting, well, driven in far enough. And then this will protect, in this case this palm, from the worst frosts and also ice collecting in the top of the spear of the palm, which can cause the most damage. And it will keep the ground around the palm dry, just enough so the roots don't rot in winter, and hopefully that no solid ice blocks form in the soil if it's a prolonged spell. And obviously it's open to the sides, so there's plenty of ventilation, and if it gets very bad in winter I will insulate the base of the palm, the trunk, round here, and tie up the fronds as well. It's got to allow enough space where the polycarbonate is for the fronds to go in. So that's a palm. Obviously the other type of plants that need protection, more so really than the palm, are the arid plants. So the next ones I'll be doing are over here in the arid bed. And then here is a bigger shelter I built for some of my arids. And underneath there I got the agave and the pontia cactus and the other agaves as well, so that's protected from the rain. and the frost and the ice. The main thing about these is keeping them dry, which this will do. Combination with the shelter above and the grit that they're grown in should keep them nice and dry. It's important to think about the prevailing direction of the rain and the wind, because the wind can get in and the rain can get in at an angle. It's good to make sure the top's angled like this one is, and so the rain shouldn't get onto the plants as much. So it's good to have a good overhang over these. And finally, to show you a bigger rain shelter here, and this is on my Jabea. And the reason it's on there, although it's harder to about -10 and a bit lower at this size, I don't want ice to collect, which it can easily do in the middle of the plant here. If it snows and then ice develops after a bit of thaw, then it can easily just rot out the sphere when it expands and melts. So that's why I've got this big shelter on top. Again, it's got a good overhang around it. So there we are, shelters for palms and arids and tender plants as well.